Hi, welcome to Ask the Manager. It's now, the weather has changed and we're getting close to Thanksgiving. We don't have a guest today. Our guest ghosted me, but that's okay. Sharon Thomas got certified from the Mass Municipal Clerks Association.
She did, yes.
Congratulations to her. What does that actually mean for our town clerk?
Well, it's a testament to her continuing education, and it's on the rare side that clerks achieve this certification. So she's dedicated, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but she's dedicated a significant number of hours to continuing education through a variety of core and, like elective type courses, all obviously within the field of the responsibilities of the town clerk and elections and other matters. So it's a true honor for her to have not only put in the work but to receive this recognition from that organization.
So it's a major achievement in the town benefits because we do seem to have a very well run town clerk's department.
Yes.
Now that used to be an elected position.
It did.
And when I think back to when I first ran for selectman, the person who was town clerk at the time was certainly friendly with the person I was opposing. And I felt it when I would go to the town clerk for information. So I always thought it was great that it was not a political position and it was a town position. And, I felt it. So I'm glad. What's your opinion on town clerk being an appointed position?
Yeah, I like it, especially in today's election environment, because it provides appropriate level of professional insulation to that position. Things are really contentious, and something as simple as someone going to the Secretary of State's website to see if their mail-in ballot was received, knowing that literally one keystroke off can mean that you entered something wrong in their system, or how the address went out wasn't exactly how your last name was spelled, whether there was a space or a hyphen or something like that. And we all have heard the rhetoric at the federal level about how fair our elections are. So having a person that's not subject to that influence and can serve all residents equally without the thought of, are they going to vote for me in the next election cycle, I think is really important. And I respect the folks that serve in those positions on an elected basis. But as I look across the country and I see some of those, like partisan positions, like they are a particular party and they're the head of elections, that kind of bothers me, knowing the responsibilities of the positions. And there's the electoral process itself is political, but you don't want the person counting the votes and managing the process to be in that mindset.
It's probably not fair for me to say this, but I'm going to say it anyhow. I lost by 13 votes. I think it was 13 votes. So it's very easy to say, did I really lose? But I never challenged it. I just took the high road and ran the following year. But when you have a close election like that, you do wonder. And we've now had 3 town clerks. This is our 3rd town clerk, if I recall.
2006, the position went to be an appointed position. So
it's 3 town clerks.
Okay.
And I think they've all done a remarkable job, and it's been seamless. And I think they benefit by working for the town also, as opposed to being elected. I think they benefit because the pressure is off them when it comes to the decision making.
I've certainly seen in communities across Massachusetts, I think from a very broad perspective, it's one of the last positions that makes that transition from appointed to elected. I don't know why. It's interesting, but it does. It certainly was for us here in Shrewsbury. And there was 2 positions that were called out in the Town Manager Act that could easily move from elected to appointed. That was the treasurer collector and the town clerk. The treasurer collector went kind of rapidly 7 years later in 1960, but then the clerk went in 2006. So interesting.
Took a while.
Yeah.
So David Snowden and Alex Martinez, both in your office, what's a Distinguished Budget Award?
Yeah, so it's an award by the Government Finance Officers Association, and it recognizes really the thoroughness of how a budget document is put together. So budget documents is often said is the key policy document. It identifies where all your resources are going and what you think is important and what the town is spending their taxpayer dollars on. But putting that context into place and not just putting the numbers on paper, but really providing a narrative, providing an organization chart, providing exhibits, identifying changes year over year is what makes it a distinguished budget that you could kind of pick up the book even if you were from some other part of the country and really understand how the local government's budget works and what their priorities are. So yeah, this is the town's first time that we've achieved this award, and really proud of all the work that went into it because it's been a work in progress over the years.
So could it be because you took it out of the town manager's hands?
Yeah, it could be. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Someone actually
Yeah,
is focused.
100%.
They're
Yeah.
focused. That's their job, and they're focused on that budget. So
Yeah.
you certainly benefit as well as
Oh,
the
100%.
residents.
Yeah. I mean, it's a completely different document than it was 3 years ago even.
Yeah.
So it's I welcome that and very proud of it. Very proud of the work that they do.
And David and Alex are both of, I can't even say the next generation because you're not even my next generation. Anyways, they're of that younger group that you've hired and you've seen come into town hall. And they're so qualified to do the work that they're doing. I just think that as things have evolved, as the town has grown, you've actually built a really strong group within the town manager's office to, work because they can all focus on, their tasks to make it more effective and to make our government more effective as a result of it.
Yeah. They're individually capable at, running the whole budget process or running the whole town meeting process themselves, right? Would they be more nervous doing it? Yes. Was I nervous doing it by myself rather than having a team to work with? Of course. But it really does free us up to provide better products at the end of the day, but also provide a different level of service and understanding throughout. And they, of course, directly support the finance committee through that really intricate process of not only budget, but each and every time we go to town meeting. And, one of the challenges of a town meeting is you've got like two opportunities or one main opportunity to get it right versus a city council or a town council form of government where you have another meeting 2 weeks later, and if the comma's off, you can go back and make that adjustment. So it's a little bit more pressure going into that environment and a lot more eyes on the process.
In reflection, it's interesting that it took the town manager's office so long to have someone just focused on the budget because the school department did it. I can't even remember how long ago. I know Dr. Agard and Peter Bent back then, they had a business manager from way back. And honestly, the face of the business manager has changed over the years because once we got to Mr. Collins and forward, it seems that they're more approachable and we can be confident they're giving us the information that we want. But I won't go there. Anyways, so our government is the same, but stronger because of the people that you're actually getting to have in place.
Yeah, extremely talented and dedicated and committed day in, day out to what it is that they do. And the approach that we've taken in the town manager's office has been clearly a spectrum of responsibilities for all positions. And it helps them grow and stay grounded at the same time, right? So to be specific, like Alex gets to work on the high level budget and the high level special town meeting, and she manages all the grants of the town, but she also manages accounts payable in the town manager's office. So
Wow.
that's kind of a drag, right? You're going from really high level work to paying the bills of the office. But it was a consensus that we came to a couple years ago where we eliminated one of the FTEs and shared those resources to increase the level of talent we were able to acquire for the department.
And I'm glad you brought that up. And I am repeating myself because I want to make sure everybody knows it. As you built these teams within Town Hall, it wasn't that you were impacting the budget in a negative way to any extreme whatsoever. Because, like you said, you eliminated an FTE to redefine and change the roles, I guess.
Correct, yes.
So the next award, the High Performance Government Award,
Yeah.
and Julie Tierney
Yes.
is the assistant to the town manager. So what did Julie do to earn that?
So Julie, specifically on this initiative, was her work associated with our OpenGov software system. So this, just to be clear, this is an award from a software provider that we utilize, but it's the software system that we use for all our permits and licenses. It's our online storefront. So when someone goes in for a building permit, they're actually using the OpenGov system. When they go in to reserve a field, or something like that, it's the OpenGov system. So we were using OpenGov on a limited basis, and we also had some other similar software packages that we used for purposes that could be handled, or services that could be handled by OpenGov. And Julie has been, she's our business systems analyst, so she looked at all of our software and really has driven us in the direction of just using one platform, which is OpenGov, and expanding it. I can't even tell you, it's probably 15 or 20 times the amount of services that we provide through OpenGov than we did when she was there. So think of pretty much anything that you can apply for with a town. It's a building permit, it's a application to go before the planning board or the ZBA, or it's a dog license, or it's a common victualer's license in the select board's office, or a class 2 auto license. Now you go onto the website, you log in, and you do that electronically. And before that, just 2 years ago, 90% of those processes were paper. Print out the form, fill it out, send it in. Maybe the most advanced we would be is a fillable PDF, but now it's completely online. We actually even use it internally now. So if I need, there's a light bulb out in my office, I submit a work order, it goes to Public Buildings, they get it, it's routed to the appropriate custodian or maintenance craftsman, and they come and change the light bulb. So
you don't have to involve all those people in between.
and we've actually, talk about money savings, we've eliminated these proprietary systems, and I won't name names, but we used to have a work order system for Public Buildings that was solely a work order system, and maybe we paid $20,000 a year for that, right? Or we had, some cities and towns buy dog licensing programs, but we use this one program and haven't increased our costs at all. We've just utilized it better. And we are recognized, there's 400 clients that this company has across the country, and we were one of 12 that were recognized for the level of usage that we get from their software system. So we're really proud of that. We got 2 awards back to back. We don't get a lot of awards, so it's really nice to see staff be recognized for their work.
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, Parks and Recreation is moving out, and they're going to be in the Ray Stone Post. Is that whether the payment gets approved at town meeting or not?
So the
How would
select
that
board's dedicated ARPA funds for that. So we have all the funds in place, no taxpayer impact to do full design. We've done the design work, and now it's out to bid for the contractors to come
A
in.
lot of money.
Yeah, it's like over $600,000. Yeah.
So, is it because you're basically gutting the
Yeah,
building
we're completely renovating it.
and utilizing space that we already have, but
Yeah.
bringing it up to
Yep.
code, really?
Up
'cause
to code, make it accessible. The building hasn't been literally touched in probably 25 years.
More than that, probably.
Yeah, probably more than that. But it will be the home for the recreation department. They will have programming space there to run.
How will that be? What will, give me an example of what they could.
Well, I mean, they could do like, arts and crafts type sessions, less impactful yoga sessions, limited number of people. It'll continue to be used by groups like the Boy Scouts and other, civic organizations that currently use it. But yeah, it'll be limited programming
And is
space.
there enough area around that building for parking, or will people have to park over?
Yeah, some
across the
folks will
street.
have to park over across the street, but we'll restripe that and put in, the appropriate crosswalk beacons and things like that.
Yeah, true. Now, what are all the cars that are over there now? It appears that every day there's a set number of cars that are parked there. Are those just people walking? It doesn't seem so.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually, to be honest
But
with you.
the
I know
town's
there's a
not renting.
Yeah. No.
They're not renting
Yeah.
anything out, that space for any reason.
No, not
Because
right
it almost looks like a commuter lot or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
I mean, there's that many cars there.
Yeah.
You don't know.
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So, and so that has to get approved at town meeting?
No, it does not.
Not at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
No, because those are the American Rescue Plan Act dollars.
Just all that,
100% of that.
and it's not our tax dollars, it's the rescue plan money, which
Yep.
comes ultimately from our money, but.
Yep, it was through that federal
So
COVID program.
we've actually, what can I say, maximized that ARPA funding in many positive ways for the town.
Yeah. So we received just over $11.6 million in ARPA funds, and we plan to send no pennies back to the federal government
Good
by the end
idea.
of this calendar. So we have a deadline coming up at the end of the calendar year that we have to have everything obligated under federal definition, which means it has to be under contract or dedicated for specific employee staff use. So going back to Alex Martinez, she updates the federal government through their portal on a quarterly basis on where we've allocated the money and how we're spending it. So it's all been allocated. We think we meet the full obligation requirements. And then starting January 1, 2025, we're in the final 24 months to actually spend it. So we've spent well over 50% of that, probably about 70% of it, but we've got to just get through the rest of the projects. And
so you've got a plan, it's all,
Yep.
all taken
yeah,
care
it's
of.
all taken care of. So it's, not in any jeopardy to get pulled back, the end of the calendar year.
When you look at the ARPA funding and you look at the CPC, it's almost like the philosophy's the same. It's like, we have this money, we have to use it for specific things, and as long as we do, it's like a windfall from the larger government to us. And things that you wouldn't necessarily have the money to do or want to put it on the taxpayer to do. So there are different projects. So when we look at, I know I'm going to jump around here, but when we look at the CPC money, it seems that the applications this time are different, or is this the beginning of a trend? For example, I think, I'm into cemeteries, so I believe that it should, the historical section should be restored, and I believe that it's our obligation as a society to maintain our cemetery, but that's also the law, right? Town has to have a cemetery. As far as the other articles that CPC are bringing to town meeting, 3 of them are all connected to the First Congregational Church. And my reaction to that is the same as the reaction when the India Center wanted to put a garden in. I believe that private organizations, churches, etc., should take care of their own. I don't believe taxpayer, now, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, including the committee, that don't agree with me, but to me, that's taxpayer money that I thought we were going to use for things that we didn't necessarily have the money or the commitment to spend for example, we needed more related to playgrounds. We needed more related to, could be sidewalk project. It could be many things, but it's all things directly connected to the town. Now, people, I'm sure, will say, well, this is in the historic district. So does that mean that Mrs. Smith in the historic district decides she wants to paint her house, that CPC funding could do that for her because she needs to restore her trim on her house? It's in the historic district. So I'm a little uncomfortable with that, and I don't feel that the spirit of the CPC funding is going in the direction that I expected it to. What do you think?
So it's clear that given and I know it's a private church institution, or
Beautiful
private
church,
building.
absolutely beautiful church.
On this one, there is a clear connection that we all know to the town, that, you know, when residents were seeking to have Shrewsbury incorporated, they needed to build a meeting house. And that meeting house, although not that building that stands there today, just
It's already gone.
5 years before that, you know, they built a meeting house. They received incorporation and then had to build a larger one, which is the building that's
So
there now.
the original building
The
is already
original is
gone.
gone, but it's still really
So
old.
what if St. Anne's or St. Mary's or Trinity Church decide it's not in the historic
Yeah.
zone, but boy,
They're
they're beautiful buildings
Yep.
in town.
Yep.
What if they want to do something? Are we going to look at them and go, no, because you're a church?
So they're not historic, right? They are not in the district.
They're not in the district.
But they don't
period.
qualify for the historic restoration funds under CPC, as far as I understand.
They don't.
I understand your concerns. There is
The lines are getting blurred.
the lines are getting blurred. I ultimately so CPC has deemed the projects to be eligible. They understand. They're willing to support the projects. You know, some of them may have stronger feelings, like it should go to town meeting and be decided, and some people probably on the committee and others feel that, you know, it just should be adopted. I mean, I think that's the beauty of the process that we never want to lose sight of. What is the role of town meeting? We do a lot of work to get to town meeting, but it goes to the hands of the 240 elected representatives that are charged with that, right? So if 121 feel the same way you do, or more than 50% of the people in the room, then it won't get funded, and that's appropriate and fine. I don't think that judges the work of the CPC at all. They've done everything they can. They put it through the process.
True.
They reviewed its eligibility, and they said, you know, let's move this forward and let town meeting decide.
They have a big job. And I also want to say again, when I don't think there's ever a day that when I drive by the Congregational Church, I look at it and admire the beauty of it and admire that whole area for what it is. So it's not related to that. I think it's more of a philosophical, don't go into private entities that way, because you could be headed down a path that how are you going to say no to the next person? That's my concern. And I also think that my tax dollars shouldn't be paying for a private club or a private church to do the work that needs to be done. They need to have their own fundraiser and fundraising methods. The other one is that the lightning rod,
Protection, yep. Lightning
Okay.
protection system. Yep.
does the Congregational Church still have radio towers in their steeple?
They do.
So why don't they have the people that put the radio towers there that attract the lightning, put the lightning rod in?
So it's my understanding that steeple, the steeple of the church, does have lightning protection. The entire building does not. So this would be servicing the rest of the building, the part of the building, because this is required in the test that's set up by the Supreme Judicial Court, that is not serving a religious purpose. So
Also the just the lightning rod philosophy. At first I thought, well, will that protect the people if they're at a town gathering on the common, at a parade or whatever, if the lightning, but it's really specific to that building. It's not going to, and I would be hopeful that was actually the first radio tower, I think, that was put up in town. And they were getting a good sum of money for that, because they initially tried to go through the Board of Selectmen to have a tower and it ended up there. They ended up getting the benefit of that, and it was a substantial amount of money per month that they get for income for that. But I'll move on. So Route 9 and Harrington Ave intersection. It seems like it's, for some reason, the intersection's bigger to me. It's the same intersection, but it's very, very dark. And we have more and more pedestrians in that area. And I was wondering, and I then thought of the South Street intersection, you know, as you go up Route 9, there's more pedestrians. Every intersection, people dare to cross the street there. And I just think that it's not well lit. And I think it needs to be for the protection of the people that are around that area.
Yeah, I guess I haven't noticed driving through, but it's something that we can clearly look into with Selco and with the state.
Well, if you think about if it's nighttime and you're driving through there, you're going home.
Yeah.
I'm out,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
just being a retired person looking at all the things that need to be fixed.
Yeah.
But I do think that they're very dark intersections, and that one especially. And there are so many more. It's just like between the bowling alley to South Street, how the state didn't think that they needed to put sidewalks in when they did the work around there. It's I mean, there's more pedestrians.
Right.
They walk there.
Yeah.
And you can barely see them until you're on top of them. So, anyways, we got a $40,000 road safety grant from the Department of Public Safety. And hopefully that's going to get all those cars that go through the red light. Actually, I saw someone pulled over. I said, "Oh, I bet they went through the light." The housing production plan.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that is.
Sure. So this is a plan that we use to analyze the housing needs within the community and then identify goals for future housing development within the community. So it's a couple things. First and foremost, it's a requirement of the state if we ever want to achieve what's called interim safe harbor whenever it comes to our affordable housing production or requirements. So remember, most cities and towns are trying to get to 10% affordable housing within the community, and then they're not subject to 40B. If you have a housing production plan in place, it's approved by the state. If there's an additional 0.5% in any year, you get a 1-year safe harbor, and you can say no to 40B projects. Yep. If you get 1% in any single year, you can say no to 40B projects without question for 2 years. So having the plan in place and approved is really important for us to be able to have the most strategic or most leverage when developers are coming to the community, knowing that 40B is out there. So you can just say no. So that's the primary reason. The plan is also insightful because it does a demographic analysis of age cohorts, and it signals that there's populations within the community that aren't living here, right? And we see that in the late 20s to early 30s, and that signals an affordability question or challenge, that there are certain age groups that must not be able to afford to live in the community, because you have every other age group with higher percentages that live in the community, and we've actually seen declining percentages. And that's a really interesting population, at least historically, right? It's early family development and things like that. So that is the gap. So that helps us inform when we're working with developers to make sure that we have the right amount of affordability and the right housing, so-called middle income housing, because often those folks, especially the late 20 group, if they went to higher education, they have a higher student loan burden, they have lower income, at that point in their career, kind of on the entry level, and it's just harder for them to find housing. And going back to those young people in the office, I hear it from them. Right? Like, I would love to live in Shrewsbury, but I can't even afford an apartment,
right.
Here. because of how expensive it is.
So that brings us to the state twisting our arm with the MBTA regulations coming forward. And initially it was going to be, oh, we'll put it at the Christmas tree shop. And someone had the great idea to focus in on Shrewsbury Commons in the existing two 40Bs, one that's approved and one's in process.
That's correct.
So 40B, so when people ride down Route 20 and they see all those apartments going up, we had no choice.
Correct.
It's a 40B and our hands are tied. But they're working with the town now. And then you have Emerald Run, and then you have Shrewsbury Commons, where there are some affordable units already.
Correct.
And now you can make that into a zone, use the 40B that's already coming in anyhow, and meet the requirement for the MBTA. And that's going to town meeting on
November 18th.
November 18th.
Yes.
So it seems like as much as we didn't want this, and we were getting these others anyhow, it's all falling into place.
Yeah.
Is that a good interpretation?
It is. I mean, we think so, right? Like that is strategically why we placed the zone there, because there's been consistent interest from a variety of developers to develop 409 South Street, right? That is the one of kind of 1/3 or one of the three key parcels in our MBTA plan, and it doesn't have any permitted development. 33 Green Street is the second third, and that has a 40B that's already been permitted, and they've started to move forward with some of their due diligence and work in the road and things like that. And then you have the commons that you mentioned where there's existing housing. So knowing that development interest and pre-permitting work and conversations we were having, that is the primary reason we located the zone there. We pivoted away from the Christmas tree shops because our original proposal had a requirement for mixed use development, but the state rejected that in our initial submission. So we didn't want to overlay such a prominent commercial or retail environment. That is a good location for retail and commercial establishments, so we didn't want to encourage housing over there that didn't have any requirements for commercial. And the final key point is there's going to be a lot of investment in Route 20. We've talked about this many times. About a $26 to $30 million investment in Route 20 from South Street to Valenti Drive, and it'll include 2 rotaries. It'll include full width widening. I think the best example is if you look at the stretch of Route 20 at Lake Street up to the top of the hill by Flynn's, right in front of Market Basket. That is the new design for Route 20 from end to end in Shrewsbury. So that design will be implemented from South Street to Valenti Drive with 2 rotaries within that area for people to reverse direction.
And hopefully they'll make the rotaries big enough for trucks to be able to turn.
100%, yeah.
You go to different towns and they'll have a rotary and the truck can't even make the turn.
There's a lot of trucking companies along that route, and there's been direct engagement with the state, with those property owners, and understanding their requirements for their business. And I've been a part of a number of public hearings, and those questions have come up about what type of truck can circumnavigate this area and what does it look like. They will be rotaries. They will accommodate the trucks within the roadway design itself, but it's not like a monument in the middle. It'll be mountable curbing, so snow plowing will be easier and things like that.
So Stop and Shop is closed, gone. What's going in there?
I haven't heard anything yet.
Oh.
Yeah, we're actively pursuing that. Trying to find tenants, but I haven't heard any good leads yet.
What's happened that when you drive down the street, we're getting littered with illegal signs being placed on the side of the road?
Yeah,
And when I say that, it's been political signs. It's the one at the end of my street this afternoon was decorating for Christmas. Got leaves, college hunks painting, which aren't even college kids, I'll bet by now, because those have been around for years. And on and on and on. So how do we already have a regulation that you can't put those out. So how do we control that? I know DPW goes around and picks them up. Can't keep up with it because there's so many. I mean, there's even signs that you think, oh, is that like the soccer association? But then you go to another town, the same soccer sign's there. So obviously it's a business. So they're placed like at the corners of streets and so on. Should there be fines? What could we do to stop this? Because it's getting this year, for some reason, it's really out of control.
So a couple of thoughts on that. If it's on private property, that we won't remove it.
Right.
So if someone sees it at the corner of their intersection and it is their private property, we would, if it's not authorized, we encourage them to remove it. It's on their private property. When it's on town property, like the town hall lawn or
public
an
way.
island, we do remove it, but it is hard to keep up. I mean, I think the proliferation of them, they must be effective, right?
Oh yeah,
People,
and they're easy,
and they're cheap, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Compared to the old signs where you had to build them, you can just plunk them in, and if someone takes them out, you can just put another one out.
Yeah, it's a couple bucks.
So would a fine make a difference?
It could make a difference, but I don't know how we police that or enforce it. I mean, if you'd have to almost find the person that put it there, not necessarily whose business it is, because I could see nefarious activities of people making signs on behalf of other folks just to get them
in trouble. That's true.
Yeah.
Now, the town still has trouble getting plow contractors?
It's a struggle every year. We work as hard as we can to make sure that we have enough equipment for the biggest storms, and that takes over 30 pieces of equipment of a wide variety. It's from a heavy duty pickup truck to a full dump truck to larger front end loaders and things like that we use to plow certain other aspects of the community. So we always fight and we can never have too many, let me put it that way. So we work really hard to get folks in and get them signed up. We offer, because we have to, an early sign-on bonus that is awarded, and then we give like a perfect attendance bonus, because it's important to keep.
You need to know they're going to show up.
We're heavily reliant upon private contractors, because we have, I'll get the number wrong, but about 20 pieces of town equipment, but 30 pieces of private equipment. So we can't do it on our own.
Right. Have you gotten any complaints about the TV switch over, where now we have to go all those steps to turn the TV on?
I certainly have.
Okay. Yeah. And also, in defense of this, which you can never go, quick, put Channel 5 on, because you'll never get there by the time the program will be over. But we've had issues where the TV pixelates.
Yeah.
And I called one day just to ask, because I had heard other people saying the same thing at the same time. I thought it was my house at first. And they said it's a Boston issue, that the feed from Boston was the problem, not the town. And it wasn't anything with the changeover. It was the feed coming from Boston.
So it's really interesting. So there's been a couple of events that have caused pixelation in Shrewsbury that I'm aware of. One of them was Hurricane Helene. And there was, at one point that was really impacted in North Florida, was a major TV and internet service feed, and it got knocked out during that hurricane. And it caused pixelation here throughout the course of that weekend. And then it must have been within the last week or so, there was a major fiber optic line that was struck and it was severed in Ohio. So we are now tied into this. And the pixelation that you see on the screen is really noticeable, but likely if you were on your phone and not having a video feed, or you're on a computer surfing the web and you didn't have video, like, you wouldn't notice it. But it was technically slower, but it's only really manifesting itself when you're watching a screen. But
the Celtics game, it happened during the Celtics game.
No, and I know it's frustrating, but it is these kind of larger nationwide issues that are impacting our system more, because we're just more interconnected into the
I think people need to know
Fees,
that it's
yeah.
not the town doing something wrong
No.
or not fixing it, that it is something.
Yeah, and going back to, all the steps on your remote and having a streaming service, we just have to remember, like, cable isn't an option anymore. Like, it doesn't exist. We can't provide that service. This is the only service that we can provide, and we do that.
And what's going on? The trash isn't getting picked up. For the whole time we've had trash pickup, my neighborhood has never had so many times that we haven't been picked up.
Yeah, it's been really frustrating. There's a couple of factors that have been impacting the services right now, and it's no excuse. And trust me, we've been having the hard conversations and leveraging the contract is to the greatest extent that we can, even though it's a new partner with us, and we want to have a productive relationship with them over the course of the entire contract. So, one, it's equipment. And this is a factor of long lead times for vehicles. They don't have the right equipment in place yet. And it's not their fault. As soon as we sign the contract, they place the orders for their vehicles. But we're getting almost to a year now. We should have them in January. And that will be those split body vehicles that can handle recycling and trash, at the same time. One of the biggest challenges over the last few weeks, which wasn't being experienced in the summer, is the lines at the incinerator at Millbury where the trash goes.
It takes a long time for them to turn around.
Yeah, so they're going over there, and sometimes they're sitting in line for 3 hours. And when they're over there for 3 hours rather than the scheduled, what was anticipated by the contractor, say an hour, that's 2 hours that they're not in town picking up. And, of course, now we're challenged by daylight savings time.
Right.
And all. Like, I'm not making excuses from them, because trust me, there's no stronger advocate for the residents and pain in the butt of the contractor than me.
We have to be patient and see if there's improvement in January when they get their trucks.
Yep.
And then we can judge.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we should be judging them right now, and we are judging them right now. Some of the things that have occurred is unacceptable. The conditions of their truck and allowing waste to be spilled on the road or dumped out on the road, that's unacceptable. They've been incredibly responsive, but to that, unfortunately, their responsiveness means they're going out and street sweeping and cleaning the roadway, which means the impact to the resident has already occurred.
When you talk about the line at Wheeler Breda, the poor guys yesterday were out in front of my house, and as they're trying to put stuff in, it's falling out. And my husband says they're just trying to get this load in, so because then they're not going to be able to come back till tomorrow, which would have put us into today.
Yeah.
But the whole ground was covered. They picked everything up.
Yeah.
They did, and I thought, oh, those poor guys, because it just kept coming out like a. Anyways, we have hydrant flushing, and it's going okay.
It is going okay. We're staying on top of it this time. We have really good results. It's really effective because of the diligence in maintaining the system that we set up.
Did you ever hear of this where fire hydrants have different color tops and sides indicating how much water pressure comes out of that particular hydrant?
I do believe that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the size of the connections and
I
things
never
like
noticed that.
Yep.
They're not in Shrewsbury, but in other places they have different color tops, and it tells them, the fire department, how much pressure they're going to get out of that.
And we may have different ones in Shrewsbury because of our 3 different pressure zones.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that scale is.
Yeah, I never noticed it anyhow. I have so many questions, and I don't want to miss out on, we're running out of time, and I want to just touch upon a couple of the articles for town meeting. We did talk about a few of them, but one interesting one by petition is the one about changing to an elected planning board versus appointed. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the right step for the community, and I've voiced that at the finance committee and with the select board. In the 1950s, when our current form of government was established, it was established during a time of growing complexity and the desire to have professional appointed staff running the day-to-day operations, supported by appointed boards in most instances, really concentrating the power of voters into just a few bodies, right? We used to have 17 different elected individuals and bodies, and then we really put the responsibility and the accountability on a much smaller set. The school committee, the select board, the library board of trustees, the moderator, and of course, town meeting itself. So I think that's a really effective way to run a local government. I think it provides really good outcomes. I think appointed officials who are town residents and appointed staff who sometimes are town residents and sometimes aren't can be just as responsive to residents and their needs, given the opportunity. If those needs are voiced and we take the opportunity to work with the residents, which I know not only the planning board and the planning staff in my office, but everyone is willing and open to do. I think there's an appropriate level of separation between voters and the political election process and the planning board that's appropriate. It means that, if you're making a decision in April or March of a calendar year and your 5-year seat is up, that you can make that decision. If you're appointed, you make that decision the same as you would have, and you're not worried about what the voters may be thinking or who gave you a political contribution to your campaign, and all those things that the political process comes into play. That's no bashing of elected officials, because there has to be a really good balance between elected officials, their responsiveness and technical capabilities, and appointed officials and their responsiveness and technical capabilities. And my argument is that we have that balance right now. It's served us really well. We've had growth that is in the vision of town meeting, who is our legislative body. And that's where that authority should lie. And the power of the planning board is all defined by town meeting within the zoning bylaw. And many other cities and towns have elected boards, but I think our system is better because it really separates those responsibilities out, and we get better outcomes. And go back and look historically, you've been here for a lot of it. There's been plenty of times that the planning board has brought something to town meeting, and town meeting's like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
And things that was like no brainers, like, oh, we have all this residential growth in the community. Let's increase minimum lot size. Town meeting said no, right?
Twice.
Yeah. So, I do think it provides a really good balance, a really clear separation of responsibilities and accountability within the community. And it served us really well for 70 years.
And I'm not comfortable with someone making a decision that comes before the planning board for political purposes. I want them to make a decision on what's best for the town, and I think there can be a lot of political pressure when making some of those decisions. And if you're elected, I think it kind of defeats the purpose of the independence of that board.
So I would say to those residents that, have said, well, they want to influence what our zoning bylaw looks like, let's have that conversation, right? I'll set up a forum, at the beginning of the calendar year to have that conversation with residents and start to understand and investigate, what changes to our zoning bylaw are desired, and how do we bring, a process like that forward, right? Like, we're interested in that resident engagement. I'm not blaming anyone. There has been an absence of that, right? And except, we have worked, I know people want to say developers, and there certainly have been developers that have been proponents that have led to really good, outcomes and changes. But I think the biggest changes in this town have come from the appointed planning board and the appointed planning staff. A lot goes to Kristen Loss. Let's not kid ourselves. And I know this preceded her, but Lakeway Commons, right? Like, that was a comprehensive rezoning and new approach to zoning in this community that we have then leveraged in other zoning overlay districts. The work that's been done on Centec North and, controlling that property. Yeah, it took a really long time, but man, fantastic outcomes that we got with, biopharma, related companies complementing Charles River. We just extended that zoning across the street, and don't tell anyone, but there's someone interested in exploiting that and redeveloping, the UMass property. Like, so we're starting to see the outcomes that have been put in place over the last 10 or 12 years really come to fruition, which I'm excited about. 2 years in a row is proof of that. Our new growth, which is all new property value in town, the commercial side has exceeded residential side. 2 years in a row, and that's only the third time in the last 20 years. So the diligence of having a professional planning staff, which we haven't had for a long time, and the appointed planning board is really leading to some good results.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, a positive, the ride share income, 20 cents a ride. You think peanuts, we're going to get peanuts, but we've gotten a substantial amount of money.
Yeah. We only get 10% of that 20% assessment, so it's even less peanuts and more rides, right? Yeah, almost 300,000 over the last 3 years.
So it's been amazing to know that many people use rideshare,
Yeah.
and the town has certainly benefited from that. So we're just accepting the money.
Yeah, so we town meeting is responsible for appropriating those funds that we receive from the state. They're limited in what we can use them for, alternative modes of transportation. So we're looking for town meeting support to do that.
Jimmy Henriksen got appointed. He works for the light department, and his new title is worker foreman for Selco. So I was very happy to hear that. He's a good guy. Someone certainly dedicated to the town. The water department has so many projects. I mean, we only have a few minutes left, but they have projects everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
And it comes to, is it $40 million in capital improvements?
Yes. Yeah.
And so when you see, you have water main replacements, water meter replacements, you have the PFAS plant, you have inflow and infiltration construction improvements, which I have no idea what that means. You have the Clue Street sewer expansion pump station, Rolfe Ave and Maple Ave pump stations, that rehab and stuff is coming up. Walnut and Oak Street, the water storage tank rehab, all for a mere $40 million. But I mean, one of these projects I think lasts over a year.
Yeah.
I mean, the PFAS project is huge.
Multiple years. That's about 28 million of that total itself.
Yeah. So, and which made me wonder, what happens to this, what do you call it? Forever chemical,
Yeah.
PFAS is a forever chemical. Where do you dispose of it and how? What happens to it? It doesn't go poof because
No,
you
it doesn't.
pulled it out. Once you pull it out, what do you do with it?
Yeah, so it will take years, but the filters and the filtration system will have to be replaced. It's like, think of a whole house system, and there's one part that's the actual filter that you remove occasionally. We'll have to do that. It'll take years. I don't know the life. If it's 8 years or so, but it'll have to be removed and disposed of, and there'll be a cost to it. Don't kid yourself.
Oh, yeah.
But we're pursuing everything that we can through some class action lawsuits to recoup funds from the manufacturers of these chemicals, and they'll be dedicated to offset the cost of this plant in future operations.
The transportation network companies, which goes back to the ride, I didn't want to. The money goes to things that we put aside. I didn't want to forget that. So crosswalk improvements and sidewalk. We've been we put sidewalk improvements in the budget, and it's the first thing we pulled out every time things got tough. So we're seeing that around town. The ramps, the handicap access pads, and you're seeing it everywhere. And will we be able to, with some of this money, look forward to things like busy streets that need sidewalks, such as Old Mill Road?
Probably not, just to manage that expectation, right? It's only $30,000.
Yeah.
And we are dedicated to maintenance and ADA accessibility. But we are looking through other programs at sidewalk expansion because we know it's important in neighborhoods.
So what I worry about is the kids walk from the middle school, Oak Middle School, and they walk down Old Mill Road, and there's a sidewalk, which is now taken over by weeds and poison ivy. And then they get to the bottom of the hill, and there's a curve and the sidewalk disappears for about, I'm going to just say a quarter of a mile. I have no idea how long it is. And then all of a sudden you see a little bit more sidewalk and it's gone again.
Yeah.
But there are kids walking home from school that need those sidewalks because the cars just go faster and faster down the hill, which I did see a police car have a car pulled over there on my way here, which was nice. But, you know, they're expected to walk, but they don't have a sidewalk to walk on.
Right.
So I'm hoping that not just Old Mill Road, but there are other places, many places in town. I mean, if you were to say, okay, everybody give me the names, you'd have hundreds of sidewalks that are necessary. So, I mean, the realistic expectation, but, you know, it's one sidewalk at a time, and it's all the times that we didn't use that money for sidewalks when we planned to. Let me see, what else can we talk about here? I'm jumping around a bit. When we go back to the common, who controls the common?
So,
the town common?
So I like to say no one. We truly treat it as a common space, and it is our true free speech area. So we don't schedule it. Like, we don't allow or disallow events from happening there. We don't promote or prevent, you know, any type of free speech from occurring there. So that includes events or...
So if someone wants to put a political sign on the common, they
If
can
it's-
or cannot?
If it's unattended, it would be removed. Yeah.
Okay, right. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
So, but if I wanted to put a political sign there, do I get permission from the town, or do I get permission from the Congregational Church?
That's a great question. But if it'd be again, if we went there and there was a political sign there left unattended and no one else was there, it would be removed because while it's protected speech, we don't know who's providing that speech at the time.
So, town meeting November 18th at Oak Middle School.
Oak Middle School, yeah.
How many nights? What's
Well,
your
I'm
prediction?
hoping one. I
Okay.
really am. I know Finance Committee has gone long, but traditionally Finance Committee hearings, as you know, Donna, last longer than the actual duration of town meeting. So, you know, staff presentations will be appropriate but more concise than Finance Committee, right? With the expectation that residents have taken the opportunity to watch Finance Committee, watch the Select Board, watch this show.
And the show that you put on, the
Previewing
30
all the
the
articles.
preview of the articles, that was, I think,
30
very
minutes.
helpful.
Yep.
That was great. In and out. 30 minutes, it was
Right.
done.
Yep.
All right, time's up. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.